Hi guys, welcome to Morning Chai and Ikigai with me, your podcast host Priyanka. This is something I do every Sunday wherein I speak on a variety of different topics. So, in case you haven't subscribed already, do subscribe, follow, depending upon where you're listening to this. And YouTube subscribers, don't forget to hit the bell icon to get notified of new content. For first-time listeners, Morning Chai and Ikigai is presently into its second season that happened to start on International Women's Day. And that inspired the theme of this season. So here we are with this being a special homage to women and everything about them. Hashtag homage to Venus. Coming to this week's episode, this is especially one you will enjoy if you happen to be a reader. You know how we bibliophiles read and love and sometimes hate as well characters between the pages of a book. We tend to admire them, we tend to aspire to be like them. We sometimes silently judge them as well. From first page to last, I have often found myself silently hoping for the protagonist, silently rooting for them, even praying for the characters in a book. First, I used to do that as a reader. Now, I've started doing that as a writer as well. But I have noticed that when we are done with reading the book, we often tend to leave the characters in there and move onto other books. However, I feel that certain characters can never be forgotten. Once we have met them, we carry them in our minds forever. It's like they create this indelible imprint in our hearts, much like real people. Some fictional characters have soul too. And I believe that more than any kind of motivational advice in the world, the impetus that we receive from these literary heroes and heroines, from the novels we love to read, is the most impactful. So, I never underestimate the power of good fiction. And it's not just people of distinguished courage or those who are known for their nobility, their bravery, their fortitude that create an impact. I have realized that some of the best fictional characters are the ones who are flawed, who are layered, who are real. And so, keeping in line with the theme of the season, I thought that today's episode should be about some such admirable and some such endearing, inspiring fictional heroines and what they have taught us readers. So to begin with, let's talk about the very young. Now, I don't want to call them kids because like Louisa May Alcott rightly titled her book, I believe all young girls are actually little women. Now, one cannot deny the fact that the average woman is usually more sensitive than the average man. Science says that women tend to mature faster, both physically as well as mentally. And maybe we are designed by default to behave more sensibly most of the times, turn out more responsible than male contemporaries right from a very early age. Some wise person whose name I have forgotten once said that you have to write a book that wants to be written, and if a book will be too difficult for grown-ups, then you must write it for children. And so we come to our first literary heroine, Anne with a E. Yes, I'm talking about Anne of Green Gables. It's a classic children's novel, but one that can be enjoyed by all ages. So it talks about the adventures of Anne Shirley, an 11-year-old orphan girl who is mistakenly sent to two middle-aged siblings, the Cuthbert siblings. And it's all about how she makes her way through the town, through her school, and through the hearts of her friends who swiftly turn into family. So Anne is fanciful, she is imaginative, she is dramatic, and these are just a few of her qualities. She talks 19 to a dozen, and she has this remarkable affinity towards life and everything that comes her way. she's also very quick to apologize when she's wrong, and she's equally adamant when she believes and knows that she's right. I feel every young girl should read this book for the sheer joy it brings and for the lessons it imparts. And Shirley, you have my vote. The second fictional heroine that we are going to discuss is Matilda from Roald Dahl's novel by the same name. Now, Matilda is a bright young girl who develops these telekinetic powers, and she uses these to deal with her disreputable family, with a tyrannical school principal, and with all the bullies that she encounters. Now, what drew me towards this character was that she is an ardent bibliophile herself, and she finds solace in the fictional world of books. So, while she uses these telekinesis powers to play pranks, she also forms special bonds like the one she forms with her teacher, Miss Honey, who is yet another lovely character. So this book is a very heartwarming read if you like Roald's style of writing. If you've read his other fantasy novels like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory or Fantastic Mr. Fox, then I'm sure you'll enjoy Matilda as well. It makes for an exceptionally interesting and entertaining read during those preteen years. I recall loving the book and loving the whole telekinesis angle. And it had left my imagination soaring for quite a while after having read it. In fact, there are still a few people I would love to try that on. Our next fictional heroine is one from a title that I mentioned in passing during the earlier part of this episode. So recently I picked up my tattered copy of Louisa May Alcott's Little Women. Just for old time's sake, for the nostalgia part of it, just a trip down memory lane. And I realized that Jo March is still my favorite, a girl after my own heart. She is smart, she is impetuous, she is ambitious, and she's someone who can do anything to hold her family together. Of course, she's a tomboy, she has a temper and a quick tongue, but these are flaws that only make her real. And the fact that she feels and reacts strongly to the limitations put on women is a very endearing and a very inspiring quality that she possesses. So Josephine March wins your heart right from the beginning of the book, which, by the way, is a truly engaging story no matter how many times you read it. Of course, each of the March sisters is a little woman in her own right. So while you have Beth, who's fragile and quiet and virtuous, there is Meg, who's responsible and kind. While Amy, who's the youngest, is someone who has an artistic soul. She's partial to pretty things. She is, of course, she has her own flaws. She's temperamental, she's vain. But the good part about her is she's always attempting to improve herself. Then there is their mother, who they address as Mommy, who is the moral compass for the girls, and she counsels them through all their decisions. She's hardworking and patient, and the perfect example for them to grow up with. While on the other hand, there is this eccentric Aunt March, who is quite the pain, and she's difficult to live with. But she also loves her nieces very much. She loves these little women who always have an adventure up their sleeve. And speaking of adventure, those who grew up in the 80s and 90s, or even before that for that matter, would remember Famous Five and Nancy Drew fondly to be their earliest reads. Famous Five had this one particular character called by the name of Georgina, who hated to be addressed with her real name, and she preferred to be addressed as George instead. And she made up for a very interesting character back in the day. Nancy Drew was someone who was always ready for adventure, no matter how risky. She was a daredevil of sorts. She inspired courage in all teenage girls reading her. And I remember there was this glossy series of novels of children's novels, you can call them, and they were titled. They went with the name of Sweet Valley, and I grew up reading them. And they were about these twins, Liz and Jess. Now, Liz was short for Elizabeth, I think, and Jess for Jessica. And it was about their experiences and how they dealt with their emotional struggles. Basically, a typically girly sort of a book, a girly sort of a novel, now that I think of it. But the day-to-day occurrences wrapped in an entertaining story made up for a riveting read for an adolescent back then. So it had this the usual bubble gum and candy floss environment, with baking cookies, going on dates, sibling goals, friendship circles, and the likes. And I recall I did enjoy reading it for a while. I even went on a Sweet Valley reading spree. So because there was a certain glamour to those books. And today, even though I feel that they may have been a little superficial, but it did introduce me to a different kind of growing up. Something that was common to kids growing up in the Western world. So there were Sweet Valley Kids, there were Sweet Valley Twins, there were Sweet Valley Dreams, and I think University, by which time I had already outgrown them. And I think it was my 17th birthday when I was introduced to the real rock solid characters in literary fiction, Red Butler and Scarlett O'Hara. So, although I didn't really agree with her character back then, it took me a few years to realize the nuances in her nature, to notice her qualities, so to say, to acknowledge that just like real people, she wasn't all black or all white. That was the age when I learned to appreciate the grey. And although we have the most popularized quote, "Frankly, my dear," and all that, we have that quote which glorifies Red Butler. But one cannot not notice, or one cannot fail to notice, what a wonderfully layered and beautifully flawed character Scarlett is. So she struggles through the hardships of the American Civil War, and she's determined to survive in a man's world. And that's what makes her remarkable. She does everything to stand on her own, right from picking cotton to running her entire plantation to forging a successful business to even killing a man. So Scarlett O'Hara is this ambitious, passionate heroine who loves to be the center of attention. She believes in living her life very rationally. Of course, she does not consider honor and kindness to be very important, but it just goes to show how hungry for success she is and how hungry for success a woman can be. She just wants to survive. And even after the ultimate rejection by Red Butler, she believes that tomorrow will be another day. So there is this dialogue she says towards the end of the book, that tomorrow will be another day, which shows us the true nature of her spirit, indomitable spirit. So she's a truly complex and awe-inspiring character, not your typical woman in love stereotype. Especially not the typical women in love stereotype that was rampant back in the day when Margaret Mitchell wrote the book. Our next unforgettable fictional heroine is the hugely popular Elizabeth Bennet, who has inspired many Hollywood and even Bollywood dramas and movies, including the atrocious Aishwarya Rai starrer Bride and Prejudice. Anyway, Elizabeth from the original novel is a lively young woman who is proud of her wit, of her accuracy in reading through people's intentions. She, in a way, is both a proto-feminist and a fairy tale heroine. She is not just beautiful, but she is clever, she's virtuous, she's lovely, she converses brilliantly, she has a great sense of humor. However, she also has a sharp tongue, just like Jo March. But she has a sharp tongue and a tendency to make hasty judgments about people. And that is her flaw, the bit that makes her seem more like you and me, more real. But all this talk about judgment and flaws makes me think about Anna Karenina, who happens to be our next fictional heroine. So, here is a beautiful, passionate wife of an aristocrat who is pretty much perfect, except for one fatal flaw in character. At least it is considered a fatal flaw back in the day. And that is, she falls in love. Now, her only mistake is she is already married when that happens. So she's branded guilty of desecrating her marriage and her home. That is anything but happy, actually. But, the hypocrisy of it all. So I think Anna is a woman of passionate spirit, and her determination to live life on her own terms, that is what makes her a true feminist. And that to me makes her someone who is worth admiring. Now, the story is at its ironical best when her brother, who is also who is a womanizer, is well accepted within the society, but Anna is subjected to social exile and humiliation for her adulterous relationship, and ultimately that results in her suicide. Now, Tolstoy, through this story, wanted to probably show the double standards of the old-fashioned Russian patriarchy when it comes to adultery committed by a man and women, how society reacts differently to adultery committed by a man as opposed to adultery committed by a woman. However, Anna, I feel, she lived and she loved by the dictates of her heart, and that is what makes her a true pioneer. She is a woman who is searching for freedom to live as she pleases, to love who she pleases. And that is a thing that even now is too much to ask for by a woman in a man's world. Next up are the protagonists of a wonderful novel titled The Nightingale, which happens to be one of my topmost favorites. So, the literary heroines that we are going to talk about are these two sisters named Vianne and Isabelle, who are the protagonists of the story. And the story is set in the Nazi and the post-Nazi era. So while Vianne is the typical good girl who lives with her head down and steers clear of danger, Isabelle, on the other hand, is quite the contrary. So she is the younger of the siblings. She is the bolder one. She lives in Paris, and she is a rebel participating in the French resistance movement. So while Vianne is content with her life in the French countryside, with she has a husband and a child, and she lives a content life with them, Isabelle, on the other hand, is constantly at war with the Nazi regime, and until the Second World War, this continues until the Second World War, when through a shift of circumstances, Vianne turns out tougher and stronger, and she becomes more assertive, more like her younger sibling Isabelle. So basically, this book, written by Kristin Hannah, is a story of transformation, of change, of how it's an acknowledgement of women. So Kristin Hannah wrote this book to acknowledge the bravery and the resilience shown by women during World War II. So both the sisters are incredibly strong, and they deal with the horrors of war with utter dignity and with great courage, each in their own way. Next is this wonderfully emotional book that is titled The Book Thief, and it promises to tug at your heartstrings. It is written by Mark Zuzak, and it gives us our next literary heroine. Her name is Lizelle Meminger, and at the start of the story, she is just a little child. She is without words and she cannot read at that point, but she understands that there is great power in words. So when there are air raids conducted in Germany, her father sits with her in the basement and reads out to her stories and books, and that is when she develops the love for the written word, and she realizes that words can provide comfort. Later on, she takes up the duty and she reads to those around her in the basement whenever there are air raids. So books become a source of comfort for her, and not just for her, for everyone around her. So she loves how words can provide that kind of solace. That how words can fill her up during times of distress, during times of duress. But she also realizes during the course of her journey how words can be these extremely ugly things, especially in a way when Hitler uses the words to encourage the Germans to carry out horrific acts of violence. She realizes how words can be twisted and turned to create so much suffering. And that is the point wherein she begins to hate words, and she wishes that the world was devoid of words. But then she's in a dilemma. She loves words as well because she wants to write her own story, and for that she knows that she will have to find the perfect words. And she hates words because she knows what they're capable of, what destruction she's capable of. I think we face this dilemma as readers, as we constantly are torn between this and that. We love the words we read in books, we love lyrics from songs, but at the same time, when someone throws us a hurting word, we kind of flinch and we want the world to be devoid of words. When someone close to us throws a hurting word at us, we wish that words didn't exist. So coming back to the novel, this novel starts when Isabel is just 9 years old, and then it travels along with her until a point when she's 15, and ultimately it ends at a point when she is an old woman and death comes to take her. There are countless more literary heroines I would love to speak about, but we are running short on time. So I'll quickly do a sum up on a few more of them. So there is the adorable Sarah Crewe from A Little Princess, a book that I had read during my childhood and I still hold very dear to me. And smack opposite to her is the despicable Miss Minchin from the same book. Then we have the magical Vienna Recher of Chocolat. Now this book is a delicious book, and I enjoyed it thoroughly as much as I would enjoy a good bar of chocolate. Then we have Lata from Back Home, From a Suitable Boy, by our very own Vikram Seth. So Lata is this confused character who is confused about whom to marry, but the girl has got her heart in the right place. Speaking of which, there is Amy Dunn, a very wicked caricature sketch done by Gillian Flynn, and she is the main protagonist of her novel Gone Girl. So Amy Dunn is a narcissist and a sociopath rolled in one. So you can imagine how riveting the story will be. Then there is the Game of Thrones, the unforgettable Game of Thrones that introduced us to women who are the epitome of resilience and fortitude. Like we had Daenerys, who is the mother of dragons, and Cersei Lannister, who is ambitious beyond comparison and who cares more about power than anything else. Also, we have the girl with the dragon tattoo, Elizabeth Salander. And there is this book called The Help, which if you haven't read, you must correct and read immediately. This is about the subjugation of the African American women and how they have been treated over the years and how they were treated back in the past. And just like The Color Purple, The Help is a wonderful book written in fiction. It's a fictional account, but there are these two characters named Abilene and Minnie, who are strong women, who are inspiring women, and who qualify for nothing less than literary heroines. Then we have Mariam from A Thousand Splendid Suns by Khaled Hosseini, who happens to be my favorite author. And lastly, we have Sharvari, Pari, and Nandini from Twist of Fate by yours truly. What? Well, I couldn't just end without a mention of my baby, no? Anyway, what I want to say is that there are so many great books by so many great authors and so many great characters in each one of them that it becomes impossible to list them all. So I think I'll leave it to you to decide. Off the top of your head, who are your favorite women characters from the fiction that you read? I would love to know. Do share in your comments, and if you liked what you heard today, do like and subscribe as well. With that, we come to the end of today's episode of Morning Chai and Ikigai. Until next time, this is your podcast host Priyanka signing out. Bye-bye. Morning Chai and Ikigai is a weekly podcast. That means fresh episodes are uploaded every Sunday. If you want to connect with me outside the pod, I'm there on Twitter and Instagram. My handle is Dr. Priyanka Naik, that is Dr. Priyanka Naik. I am there on Facebook as well, and my YouTube channel is Dr. Priyanka Naik. I also blog at drpriyankanaik.com.